All right, hi guys, Phil here, Ruby on Rails, Zonmaster, etc., etc. It's been a while since I did a video. Today it's not going to be a screen grab, so that means it might be a little bit shorter than normal. You know, I tend to waffle on. This time I'm going to waffle on, but without the benefit of a screen grab, because I'm not going to be showing specific code. This time I am going to do another video to follow up on this one, because what I'm talking about today is how to write better Ruby code, or code in general. This is something I've been thinking about quite a bit. You know, I've been writing software for a long time, and I remember my software journey. You know, I'm kind of self-taught, and I remember my software journey was through reading books and you know, just kind of going up the next level and all of that. And throughout those years, I've read a great book back maybe in the 80s called Writing Solid Code. That the specifics of that book, of course, are dated. I don't even think it's using object-oriented programming. I think it's procedural C code. Maybe it's early object-oriented stuff. But the concepts of that book are pretty solid. So I'm going to kind of build on that and talk about some other things that are my pet peeves and so on. So let's get into it. Writing better Ruby code. What do we need to do? First thing, when you're using your IDE or whatever it is you're doing, enable all warnings. You know, I love to use Rubocop. People are going to say, oh, but Rubocop, you know, it catches a lot of things. It'll show you some things to make sure that your code is consistent. And when you're writing your code, don't catch exceptions. This is something that I find a lot of people, that kind of blows their mind when I say this. Don't catch exceptions. Exceptions are and should be exceptional. So in the running of your code, what you'll find is, like what I find, is that sometimes there are errors that come up that are expected errors. And throughout the process of writing your application, you will learn to catch those, because they're things that you don't have any control over. I have a library or a gem, for instance, that is always throwing these bizarre info kind of exceptions. Okay, you have to catch those. In general, I don't catch exceptions. You let them go up as high as possible, especially in the early days of writing your software. When you know that your software basically works, then you can start catching the exceptions that you know are not important. When writing methods, use what they talk about in writing solid code. They call them assertions, but in my parlance, they're not really assertions. What you're doing is checking the values that come in, especially for higher up methods. You want to make sure that the values that come in are sensible, and if they're not sensible, throw an exception, because something is calling that method improperly. So check the values. If they're not right, throw an exception. And then you know what range, you're the developer, you wrote that method to handle a certain kind of range of values. And if it's outside of that, even if outside of that I mean something's nil when it shouldn't be nil, throw an exception. You want to find out why something is calling that incorrectly. The next thing is that a lot of developers don't do: step through your code. And I said I'm going to do another video next time. Next time it's going to be about debugging Ruby, because I think a lot of people don't have much experience with that. They think that Ruby, you don't need to use a debugger, which is mostly true, but we'll go into debugging things next time. But step through your code. It's so enlightening when you see what's happening line by line. You know, you write all this stuff and you think it's right, and maybe, you know, you try it out and it seems to work, but when you step through line by line and look at the values of all of these variables in your method, it's very enlightening. Even if you don't change anything, you should know line by line what's really going on in your software. Back up to using assertions and checking values. Beware of default values. You know, you can in a lot of languages, but we're talking about Ruby. In Ruby, you can say, okay, I've got 4 arguments to my method, and I'm going to give default values to 3 of those, and then therefore when somebody calls it, they just have to pass in 1. I would argue that why are you putting default values there? Those maybe should be local variables. You're just kind of hiding things. In what we used to be able to do in C and C++ is you would have different definitions of the same method, and the definition would be based on how many variables you passed in. And so you would have a two variable one and a 3 variable one. And in Ruby what we do is we have a 3 variable one, but you don't ever need to call it with 3 because we're going to give you default values. Why? Why are you doing that? If you're doing that, check and see who's ever calling it with more than the one value that you need to pass in. And if no one is calling it, then get rid of those default values and make them local variables. Default values hide bugs. I guess that's the short version of what I should have said. When you are working on a piece of code, if you find a problem, fix it. I know that sounds silly, but a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people go through the code and then they say, okay, here's a problem. It looks like it's a big deal, so I'm going to fix that later. And I know you can kind of go down a rabbit hole, but if you're always fixing code, then there's something wrong with your software. But if you find something, fix it. It's pretty simple. And if you're not going to fix it, put a to-do in there. I don't think to-do comments are very fashionable anymore, but they work for me. I put a to-do in there. And then you can search through your code for all of your to-do comments. And there should be 0, but sometimes, you're waiting on some other features to come in and so on like that. And speaking of comments, I read this blog. Oh, I should have this up somewhere. I read this when I was looking through, for reference material about writing good code, Ruby code. I read this thing where somebody said, don't write comments. And it's like, that's insane. They're saying, your code should be self-commenting, which was what we used to say in the 80s and 90s as a joke. We didn't need to write documentation. The code is self-commenting. Write a comment and say, this method is used for this. I do that even if I'm working alone on a project, because you know what? I'm getting older, and maybe in 6 months when I go and look back at that code, I'm like, what exactly is this method even doing? So write a comment. Write a comment above the method if you want it to be caught by Rubydoc, if people use that. Or even write a comment inside the method. Write a comment. Okay, some basic things don't need a comment, but some do. I think I might have skipped one of my points, which was write short methods. So Rubocop will warn you if you've got more than 25 lines in a block or something like that, but that's not the point. The point is make short methods. The shorter the better. And that's because if you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to make sure that my methods are short, that means that your method is probably only going to do one thing. Now, I have worked a lot in consumption applications, and that is applications that go out, call an API, and pull down like a buttload of data, and then they have to parse over that data and do things like that. Those methods can be huge, 1,000 lines long, because you've got to take the data, you've got to break down each line, you've got to make calculations, and then you look at that and you have no idea. You can't debug it, first of all, because it's so massive. You can't kind of spot fix areas. You can't spot run things to see if it's actually working. So write the 1,000-line method and then say, okay, this part goes to a new method. This part goes to a new method. Pass in some variables without default values. Get a return and move on. Break it down. Keep your methods as short as possible. For God's sake, it will save you so much time and energy later on. And finally, Okay, I did some speed talking here. Finally, of my main points about writing better Ruby code, and that is testing. Now, there's people who think that writing tests will help you catch or fix bugs. In my experience, this is not true, and this is not what the value of testing is. It's kind of laughable when you sit back and think about it. It's kind of funny. So you're saying, okay, I'm the developer, I'm writing this method, and then I'm going to write a test to make sure the method does what I said it should do, and then I'm happy that the method actually works. But of course, you consciously or subconsciously are going to write a test that works. Or you're going to consciously write a test that doesn't work, because some people like to do that test. We want to make sure this test fails. It doesn't work. It doesn't catch bugs, doesn't make your code necessarily any better. That's not the point of tests. And the point of tests is, so 6 months from now, when you change that method to do something else, your test says, dummy, that method was supposed to do this and return this value, and now this thing over here is not going to work because you changed that. That's the value of tests. It's not to fix your code, it's to stop you from breaking your code. There's a subtle distinction there that's very important. So, I'm not anti-test. I think test TDD, is that it? Test-driven development, I think is ridiculous, but tests are important, and I write tests for things that are used by other people. I'm not going to write a test for this parsing of data that's coming in from the outside. That's pointless, because I'm not the controller of the incoming data anyway. I should know by having the exceptions raised when things break. Monitor your logs. That's another good one that I don't put in there. Okay, those are my points. Enable all the warnings and don't rescue exceptions. Number 2, check the incoming values to your methods to make sure that the values are sane. I'm going to swap around the order. Number 3, beware of default values. Don't use default values as method arguments unless you have a really, really, really good reason. Number 4, step through your code. Be aware of how your code works from line to line. Step number 5, when you find a problem, fix it. And step number 6, if you can't fix it, write a to-do. Step number 7, write comments, as many comments as you want. Step number 8, short methods. The shorter, the better. And step number 9, write some tests to stop you from breaking yourself 6 months from now. Those are my 9 steps for writing better Ruby code or code in general. And as a bonus tip, here's some things I wanted to just chuck in there that are kind of maybe religious feelings about writing. And that is, check your ego at the door when you're writing software. You are not smarter than the framework. I used to have that printed, I remember, in an office that I worked at. You are not smarter than the framework. We are using Rails, for instance, for a reason. Don't think, I could change using some configuration things. I can change the way Rails does this and Rails does that and where things are put. Don't. You are not smarter than the framework. Use the framework as a tool to create good software. On that, numbers matter, okay? And that is highly popular gems, just use them. The money gem or money Rails gem, just use it. Don't try and figure out how you can write a better one. If they're hugely popular, like devise and all these gems that we all use, don't question them. Put them in, use them as they were intended to use, because you are not smarter than the gem either. thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands perhaps of projects use some of these gems. Just use them. But the inverse of that is you find a gem that you think's cool and 6 people are using it, you might want to think about writing your own. Unpopular gems are probably unpopular for a reason. Another thing about this ego is don't use clever language features. There's a blog that I found. I'm not going to put it on screen because I don't want to embarrass the guy. But, you know, there's this double bang operator in Ruby, which is 2 exclamation marks. And it's a negation type of thing. This is the kind of developer here that I don't think I would ever want to be working with. This is what the guy actually says. I really like the double bang operator in Ruby, but I've struggled to find a use for it. Don't use language features just to use language features. I don't know about you, but I'm in the business of writing software to make money, or writing software that makes money. You know, and that means that it works, it's maintainable, and it does what it does. I don't care about using the most sophisticated elements of the Ruby language, using the most sophisticated, frameworks like React or whatever. I want something that's clean, fast, works, and brings in customers, okay? And no customer has ever phoned up and said, how many times do you use the double bang operator in your source code? Because then I'm going to sign up for your website, okay? I can't believe somebody would seriously say this. I like the double bang operator, but I'm struggling to find a use for it. Okay, give me a break. And finally, not all optimizations are created equal, and that kind of gets on from the Ruby language. You know, sometimes you can find a neat little Ruby language, you know, iterator or things like this that supposedly, when you do it 100,000 times, saves you 1/10 of a millisecond. That optimization is not really worth doing. Also, when you use these subtle language features, other developers are going to be confused. Yes, you'll be smarter than them, but other developers will be confused. So use the most simple thing that you can do and look at the optimizations that really affect things. And that is almost always things that involve talking to the database. Okay. This isn't going to be a popular video, I don't think, because I don't have a screencast, but I wanted to get all this stuff off my chest. See you next time, where we're going to talk about debugging. Bye for now.